Creepypasta, a relic of the mid-2010s, featuring some iconic characters such as Slender Man, Laughing Jack, Eyeless Jack, and probably the most famous one, Jeff the Killer. While creepypasta in general is not as popular as it was a decade ago, some creepypasta, like the ones I've mentioned, are still looked at fondly, and at the same time, not so fondly. These creepypasta weren't really the most quality pieces of literature around after all. Gaming is no stranger to creepypasta, as some of the most popular creepypasta are related to gaming with stories such as I Hate You and Been Drowned. There is one gaming creepypasta that just refuses to die despite everything. The topic of today's video, Sonic.exe. Sonic.exe as a concept has outgrown the original story and creator. If you're watching this video, you likely give a shit enough about Sonic.exe to know about the history of this bloody-eyed rodent and where he is nowadays. If I went back in time to tell somebody that an EXE community exists today, they would probably piss themselves. EXE itself became somewhat of its own concept, mostly referring to different versions of a Sonic character, usually Sonic himself, that is being possessed by some sort of demon outside the Sonic universe. I'm not entirely sure if there's a concrete definition of what an EXE is supposed to be, but I do know that some cool ass things have come out of this community, and we have the Friday Night Funkin' mod versus Sonic.exe to thank for that. Let's go back in time though, back to a simpler time, a time where Friday Night Funkin' wasn't even a twinkle in Phantom Arcade's eye yet. Back to 2011 when Sonic.exe was first written. Today I will be reading that original story and seeing how it holds up today. Keep in mind this video will be mostly unscripted. Today you get to experience an unscripted J. Oh boy. Hello there everyone, it is me, J-Romy, and you already know what's going on. You heard the intro. I'm gonna be reading the original Sonic.exe story today and just giving, and commentating on it as I go through. I'm gonna be reading this on the fandom.com wiki because it has some additional information about the story, like after the fact, like before the actual story starts. It says, Sonic.exe is a creepypasta written by JC the Hyena, released on August 19, 2011, being the official creepypasta for the original incarnation of Sonic.exe. This creepypasta has been marked as infamous for the use of multiple cliches and subpar, often considered horrible writing, eventually leading to its removal from the creepypasta wiki on January 14th, 2014. The story tells of this tale of Tom and his encounter with the eponymous entity. I've never heard that word before until now. After refusing to heed the warning of his friend Kyle and being exposed to the horrors that had fallen onto Kyle, now being dealt to himself. So that's the overall gist of the story, and some things that happened after the fact, like it's being removed from the creepypasta wiki. Okay, without wasting any more time, let's get on to reading the story itself, and I'm gonna be just commentating on some things throughout reading it, because there's a lot to this story, and it's not exactly good. Okay, the tale. I'm a total Sonic the Hedgehog fan, much like everyone else. There are people that don't like Sonic the Hedgehog, you know that, right? Not everyone likes this blue freak. I like the newer games, but I don't mind playing the classics. I don't think I've ever played glitchy or hacked games before, though I don't think I want to play any after the experience I had. It started on a nice summer afternoon. I was playing Sonic Unleashed. I liked how you get to explore the towns in it. until I noticed, out of my peripheral vision, that the mailman had arrived and put something in my mailbox as usual and left. I paused my game to go see what I got in the mail. The only thing in the mailbox was a CD case for computers and a note. I took it inside. Okay, first off, Tom is based for liking Sonic Unleashed. That's my favorite Sonic game. I looked at the note first and realized it was from my dear friend Kyle. Let's just call him that. So, is his name not Kyle? Hey, my friend Kyle gave me this, but his name's not actually Kyle. But they don't know that. Whom I hadn't heard from in 2 weeks. I know that because I recognized his handwriting, though it was weird how it looked. It looked badly written and scratchy and somewhat difficult to read, as if Kyle was having a hard time writing it down and did it in a hurry. This is what he wrote. Tom, I can't take it anymore. I had to get rid of this thing somehow before it was too late, and I was hoping you'd do it for me. I can't do it. He's after me. And if you don't destroy this CD, he'll come after you too. He's too fast for me. Please, Tom, destroy this godforsaken disc before he comes after you too. It's too late for me. Destroy the disc and you'll destroy him. But do it quick, otherwise he'll catch you. Don't even play the game, it's what he wants. Just destroy it. Please, Kyle. And presumably Kyle had all the time in the world to write this letter as he was being chased by Sonic.exe or whatever. I can just imagine him just running with a notepad in his hand and just writing it down. Well, that was certainly weird. Even though Kyle is my best friend and I hadn't seen him in 2 weeks, I didn't do what he asked me. I didn't think that a simple gaming disc would do anything bad to him. After all, it's just a game, right? Boy, was I wrong about that. Anyway, I looked at the disc and it looks like any other computer CDR disc, except it had a black marker on it written Sonic.exe, and it was much unlike Kyle's handwriting, meaning that he must have gotten it from someone else, like a pawn shop or eBay. You don't know it was a pawn shop or eBay. It could have been a yard sale. You know what? That's canon to my mind now. You got it from a yard sale. When I saw Sonic on the writing of the CD, I was actually excited and wanted to play it since I'm a big Sonic fan. I went up to my room and turned on the computer and put the disc in and installed the game. When the title screen popped up, I noticed that it was the first Sonic game. I was like, awesome! Because like I said earlier, I like the classics. The first thing I noticed that was out of place when I pressed start was there was a split second when I saw the title image turn into something much different. Something that I now consider horrifying before cutting to black. I remember what the image looked like in that split second before the game cut to black. The sky had darkened, the title emblem was rusted and ruined, the Sega 1991 was now instead Sega 666, and the water had turned red like blood, except it looked hyper-realistic. Hyper-realistic in a 16-bit game, how does that work? But the freakiest thing was, in that split-second frame was Sonic. His eyes were pitch black and bleeding with 2 glowing red dots staring right at me, and his smile had stretched wider up to the edge of his face. I was rather disturbed about that image when I first saw it, though I figured it was just a glitch and forgot about it. After it cut to black, it stayed like that for another 10 seconds or so, and then another weird thing happened. The save file select from Sonic the Hedgehog 3 popped up, and I was like, WTF? He really wrote WTF instead of just simply saying, what the f***? What's this doing in the first Sonic game? Anyway, then I noticed something off. The background was the dark, cloudy sky of the Bad Stardust Speedway level from Sonic CD. The bad Stardust Speedway level. You mean the bad future Stardust Speedway level? And there were only 3 save files. The music was that creepy Caverns of Winter music from Earthbound, only it was extended and seemed to have been in reverse. And the image for the save file where you see a preview of the level you're on is just red static for all 3 files. What freaked me out more was the character select. It showed only Tails, Knuckles, and to my surprise, Dr. Robotnik. Now I was sure that something was up. I mean, how can you play as Robotnik in a classic Sonic game for crying out loud? Wait, hold on. I like how he's going on about playing as Robotnik in a classic Sonic game, yet Tails and Knuckles aren't weird to you? It's supposed to be Sonic 1. Tails and Knuckles didn't exist at that point. Why are you so freaked out about Robotnik when it would be weird that you can play as Tails and Knuckles? Not to mention a save file, which is from a completely different game. That's when I realized this wasn't a glitchy game, it was a hacked game. Yeah, it definitely looked hacked. It was really creepy, but as a smart gamer, if we're being honest, a smart gamer wouldn't be playing this in the first place, but anyway, I wasn't scared, or at least I tried not to be. I told myself that it was just a hacked game and there's nothing wrong with that. Anyways, shaking off the creeped out feeling, I picked file 1 and chose Tails, and when I selected and got wait, what? Anyways, shaking off the creeped out feeling, I picked file 1 and chose Tails, and when I selected and got started. Perfect English. The game froze for about 5 seconds, and I heard a creepy pixelated laugh that sounded awful lot like that Kefka guy from Final Fantasy before cutting to black. The screen stayed black for about 10 seconds or more. Okay, I have to bring this up. Why is he going so in detail about the time? It took 10 seconds for it to load, and then it took 3 more seconds to get into the game, and then it took 3 more seconds for the level to load, and it was just like, you don't have to be so specific about the time, you know. The screen stayed black for about 10 seconds or more, then it showed the typical level title thing, except the simplistic shapes were different shades of red, and the text showed only Hill Act 1. The screen faded in, and the level title vanished, revealing Tails in the Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1. The music was different though. It sounded like a peaceful melody in reverse. Anyway, I started playing and Tails had started running. I started playing and had Tails start running like you would in any of the classic Sonic games. I hate how I can't read this. I can't read this in the grammar that the story uses. My brain fills in the blanks because what I'm seeing here is not normal grammar. What was odd was that as Tails was running along the level, there was nothing but flat ground and a few trees for 5 minutes. 5 minutes? You mean to tell me you were walking straight for 5 minutes? Man, I'd shut that game off completely. That's boring. That was when the peaceful music started to lower down into slow, deep tones very slowly as I kept going. I suddenly saw something and I stopped to see what it was. It was one of the small animals lying down on the ground bleeding. That was when the music started to slow down. Tails had a shocked and saddened look on his face that I never saw him have before. So I had to move along, and he kept that worried look on his face. As he kept moving, I saw more dead animals as Tails moved past them, looking more and more worried as the music lowers and he moves past more dead animals. I was shocked to see how they all died. They looked like somebody killed them in rather gruesome ways. A squirrel was hanged on a tree with what appeared to be his entrails hanging out. A bunny had all 4 of its limbs torn off, and a duck had his eyes gouged out and his throat slit. Aw, come on, you can't be a real Sonic fan. All Sonic fans know that they're not simply just ducks and squirrels. They all have names. You put some respect on Cookie's name right now. I felt sick to my stomach when I saw this massacre, and apparently so did Tails. After a few more seconds, there were no more animals, and the music seemed to have stopped. I still kept Tails to continue. After a minute passed, the music stopped. Tails was running up a hill, and then he stopped. It wasn't until I saw why. Sonic was there on the other side of the screen, with his back against Tails with his eyes closed. Tails looked happy to see Sonic, but then his smile faltered. Obviously noticing that Tails wasn't responding to him, if not acting as if he was totally oblivious to Tails' presence. Tails walked slowly towards Sonic, and I noticed that I wasn't even moving my keyboard to make a move. You wasn't even moving your keyboard to make a move? You mean pressing the key on the keyboard to make him move? Yeah, I just picked up my keyboard and started shaking it around and tried to make Tails move. So this had to have been a cutscene. Suddenly, I began to have a growing feel of dread as Tails walked closer to Sonic to get his attention. I felt that Tails was in danger and something bad was going to happen. I heard faint static growing louder as Tails was but inches away from Sonic and stopped and stuck his hand out to touch him. That foreboding feeling in my gut was growing stronger, and I felt the urge to tell Tails to get away from Sonic as the static grew louder. You know, the way that Tom, tries to tell Tails to, get out of there. Sonic's gonna hurt you. It reminds me of, someone watching a horror movie in, a movie theater and just saying stuff like, "Oh, you better not go in there. Oh, you better not go in there. You finna die." Suddenly, in a split second, I saw Sonic's eyes open, and they were black with those red glowing dots, just like that title image. Thought there wasn't a smile. How did you mess that up? It's supposed to be though. Just listen to this. Suddenly, in a split second, I saw Sonic's eyes open, and they were black with those red glowing dots, just like that title image. Thought there wasn't a smile. It's like, I remember a smile being there, but I don't remember. When that happened, the screen turned black, and the static sound was off. It stayed black for about 7 seconds, and then white text appeared forming a message saying, "Hello, do you want to play with me?" At this point I was creeped out. I didn't want to continue with the game, but my curiosity got the better of me. When I was taken to a different level with the level title now saying, "Hide and Seek." This time I was in the Angel Island level from Sonic 3, and it looked like everything was on fire. How did they get to Angel Island? Fuck if I know. Tails looked as though he was scared out of his wits this time. He actually looked at me and made frantic gestures to me as if he wanted to get out of the area he was in as fast as possible. I was starting to get freaked out by this. I mean, Tails was actually breaking the fourth wall, trying to get me to get him out of there. So I pressed down the arrow key as hard as I could and made him run as fast as he could. A pixelated version of that creepy theme when you first meet Shadow at the Ark, as Robotnik from SA2 was playing. SA2? Which game is that? Is it Sonic Adventure 2? Is it Sonic Advance 2? Someone could be reading that. A non-Sonic fan could be reading this. Why would they be reading this? I don't know. But, a non-Sonic fan could be reading this and seeing SA2? What's SA2? Solar Adventure? Solar Adventure, that's what I'm calling it. A pixelated version of that creepy theme when you meet Shadow at the Ark as Robotnik from SA2 was playing as I made Tails trek through the desolate forest, trying to help him escape from whatever he was trying to run from. Suddenly, I heard that creepy laugh again. That awful Kefka laugh. right after 10 seconds have passed, as I helped Tails run through the forest, and then I started seeing flashes of Sonic popping everywhere on the screen, again with those black and red eyes. The music changed to that suspenseful drowning jingle as I see Sonic behind Tails slowly getting up on him, flying! Sonic wasn't running, he was actually flying! The flying pose his sprite was making looked very similar to Metal Sonic's flying pose in Sonic CD, except it was just Sonic, and he had the black and red eyes again. Only this time, I don't know. It ends at only, and then this time is a entirely different paragraph. Like, why? How do you mess that up so bad? Only this time, he had the most deranged looking grin on his face. He looked as though he was enjoying the torment he was giving the poor little fox as he gained up on him. Suddenly, when Tails tripped, another cutscene. Why did you feel the need to point that out? The whole game is basically a cutscene anyway, with how much flat ground you're running on. It's like Sonic Forces in this bitch. The music stopped and Sonic vanished. Tails laid there and started crying for 15 seconds. The scene was rather upsetting to watch and I kind of teared up myself. But then, Sonic appeared right in front of Tails, and Tails looked up in horror. Tails crying for 15 seconds is what caused you to tear up. Man, you would not be able to watch a horror movie. Blood started to come down those blackened eyes of Sonic's as a grin slowly grew from his face as he looked down at the horrified fox. I could do nothing but watch. Why did you have to watch? I know you were curious and everything, but you were like, oh my god, this is so engaging. I'm glued to my seat! Just in a split second, Sonic lunged at Tails right before the screen went black. There was a loud screeching noise that only lasted 5 seconds. The text returned, only this time it said, "You're too slow. Want to try again?" And then that god-awful laugh came with it. I was so shocked by what had happened. Did Sonic murder Tails? No, he couldn't have. He and Tails are supposed to be best friends, right? Why did Sonic do that to him? Have you thought to consider that maybe this isn't Sonic? Maybe it's not the real Sonic, as you can tell from the black and red bleeding eyes, you know? Kinda obvious he's not normal. I shook the shock off as I was brought back to the character select. The save file that had Tails was different. Tails was no longer in the box itself, but in the TV screen itself, which was flickering with that red static itself. Tails' expression scared me. His eyes were black and bleeding. His orange fur had gone black, and he had an expression of anguish on his face. Trying to ignore it, I picked Knuckles next. The laugh came again, and the screen cut to black again, and stayed there for another 10 again with the time. This time the level, why is it always 10 seconds? It's either 10 or 15 or 5. It's always divisible by 5. This time the level said, "You can't run." I was really freaked out by now. I couldn't really tell if this was a glitch, or a hack, or some kind of twisted joke, or anything really. How could something this elaborate be a glitch? It's obviously a f***ing hack. But despite my fear of what happened next, I kept playing. The next level looked much different. It had the ground of the Scrap Brain Zone, but the sky background looked like the main menu. It had the dark reddish cloudy sky. It was the music that creeped me out the most. It sounded like Gygus' theme right after you beat Pokey in Earthbound. I also noticed that Knuckles looked afraid just like Tails did, though not by much. More rather, he looked a little unnerved. He broke the fourth wall just like Tails, and looked as if he wasn't sure about going on, but I made him move anyway. You know, as with how much you seem to care about these characters, you'd think you'd, I don't know, listen to them and stop playing the game? He ran down the straight pathway in this dark level, and as he did, the screen started to flicker red static a couple times, and then that maddening laugh came again. Then after a few seconds of running, I noticed several bloodstains on the metallic ground. I felt a growing ease of fear again, thinking something horrible is going to happen to Knuckles. He looked nauseated walking down this blood-stained road, but I still kept him going. Suddenly, as Knuckles ran, Sonic appeared right in front of him with those black and red eyes, and then red static appeared again. When the static vanished, showing nothing but black screen with text saying, "Found you," I was now scared. Sonic found Knuckles already? What was going on? Anyway, red static came again, and then I was back to the level. Knuckles looked like he was panicking, and Sonic was nowhere to be found. And this time, that high-pitched squealing from the Silent Hill's final boss was playing. And this time, that high-pitched squealing from the Silent Hill 1's final boss was playing. You know, couldn't you just say it was high-pitched squealing from Silent Hill 1's final boss was playing? Why did you need to include the the? The the isn't needed in that sentence. It just makes the sentence sound stupid. Was this some kind of boss battle with Sonic? I hope to God it wasn't, honestly. Why not? You get to beat the shit out of him. Suddenly, Sonic appeared right behind Knuckles in what appeared to be pixelated black smoke. I made Knuckles turn and then punch Sonic, but Sonic vanished in black pixelated smoke before I could even land a hit. That terrible laugh went off again. Then Sonic appeared behind Knuckles again, and then I made him punch again. And Sonic vanished again, laughing. A lot of uses of the word again in the last two sentences. Knuckles was panicking even more, and I even felt like I was going crazy. Sonic was practically playing with us. He was playing with a sick, twisted little Wait, I cannot read this correctly. I can't read this correctly for the life of me. Knuckles was panicking even more, and even I felt like I was going crazy. Sonic was practically playing with us. He was playing a sick, twisted little mind game with me and Knuckles. Another cutscene played as Knuckles fell to his knees and clutched his head, sobbing. I felt his agony. Sonic was actually driving us both crazy. And then in a split second, Sonic lunged at Knuckles and the screen went black with another distorted screeching noise that lasted for at least 3 seconds. Wait, so the noise that played for Tails was 5 seconds, but the one that played for Knuckles was only 3. In the game made by Miss Crimson, it just uses the same scream for each death, which, by the way, is one of my favorite screams, like, literally ever. It's so funny. I love hearing it in memes. It is so good. Another text message appeared. So many souls to play with. So little time. Would you agree? What the hell? Just what is going on? I started to think Sonic was actually trying to talk to me through the game, but I was too scared to think of that. Despite the fact that you were too scared to think that, you thought that anyways. I was brought back to the main menu, and this time the second file box had Knuckles in the TV screen. His red fur had darkened to a reddish gray. His dreadlocks were dripping with blood, and his eyes were black and bleeding too. And he had a look of sadness on his face. I began to think that those were the actual characters trapped in those TV screens on the save files, but I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. So I shut off the game and took a break. Finally, after all that time, you just then turned off the game. So I shut off the game and took a break. I took a nap, which I didn't, cause I then began to have the most disturbing nightmare. I was in pitch black darkness, though I was under the light given off by a lamp that hung high above my head. I could hear the cries of Knuckles and Tails nearby. They were saying stuff like, "Help us," and "Why did you give us to him?" and "Run away before he gets you too." Their cries died out as I then heard Sonic laugh. His laugh. It sounded a lot like the distorted Kefka laugh. "You're a lot of fun to play with, kid. Just like your friend Kyle." Though, he didn't last long. I was scared and looking around for the source of the voice. "Won't be long now until you join him. And all my other friends." I saw him walking toward me, flickering in and out in several directions. "You can't run, kid. You're in my world now, just like the others." And when he grabbed me, I saw his bleeding black and red-eyed grinning face. I woke up with a fright. After a couple of hours, I decided to continue playing the game. I don't know why, but I had to know. I had to figure out why this was happening, despite my best friend's wishes. So I turned on the computer, turned on the game, and selected Robotnik next. I still thought that was wacky, playing as Robotnik. Really? After everything going on right now, including Sonic.exe killing Tails and Knuckles, and you're still going on about playing as Robotnik? But anyway, the level title appeared again, and this time it said ... Wait, hold on. I should have read it like, I still thought that was wacky, playing as Robotnik. But anyway, the level title appeared again, and this time it said, which I found really freaky. This time I was in some kind of hallway. Didn't really look like it was from any of the classic Sonic games, though it has the pixelated style. The floor was shiny and checkered. The walls were a dark grayish purple, with animated candlelights and a few dark bloodstains here and there. And there was a dark red curtain hanging above the top part of the screen. There's one thing I haven't mentioned yet, and it's this story's overwhelming use of run-on sentences. Like, some of these sentences go on for like 5 lines. It's like full of commas that you'd expect should be like periods, but the sentences just keep going and going. Every 12 seconds or so, that red curtain sways very slowly, but whenever you're playing the game, you can barely see it move. The music was oddly pleasant, a piano playing a rather sad yet peaceful song. But I knew better. This was the song that played in Hill Act 1, only it wasn't in reverse. Robotnik didn't look entirely nervous like Tails and Knuckles did, but he did have a suspicious look on his face, as if he was just a bit paranoid. He did a little animation when I just left him standing. He turns his head to the left and then to the right at least twice and then shrugs at me, as if he has no idea where he was or what was going on. Even though I was scared out of my mind about what was going to happen, I had Robotnik continue onward. You know, it's clear from the dream that he had that he felt bad about leading Tails and Knuckles to their deaths somewhat, despite them through the game telling you, "Hey, stop playing this." And now you're going to do it again to Robotnik. But hey, he's the bad guy, so I guess it's fair. He did his usual running animation, You know, when you've beaten him at the end of a classic Sonic game and you chase him? As we continued going through the hallway. And then I stop at a long flight of stairs leading downward. Now I was nervous. Even Robotnik seemed unsure of himself, though I pressed onward. As I led Robotnik down the stairs, I noticed that the walls have gotten darker and more reddish. The red torches were now an eerie blue. Then we landed onto another hallway. This one was longer than the last one, or at least it felt like it. And then we headed down another flight of stairs down. This one was much longer, took at least 1 full minute. 1 full minute? Alright, again, how have you played this game for this long? I would have stopped by Green Hill Zone taking 5 minutes of just straight line. And then I heard that horrid Kefka laugh again, and then the music slowly faded until it was quiet. As it did, the walls turned more dark red, and the torches were a black flame now. When Robotnik landed onto the third hallway, I noticed he now looked really creeped out, though he tried to hide it. I couldn't blame him. I was scared too. You know, I bet as Tom was playing this, Robotnik looked scared, though he tried to hide it, and I bet with Tom it was really obvious. Suddenly, Sonic popped right in front of Robotnik the same way he did Knuckles, and then red static. The red static lasted for about 15 seconds, and then it showed me a most unpleasant image. The image showed a hyper-realistic of Sonic standing in the darkness, where you can only see his face while his head and torso faded into black. And when I say hyper-realistic, I mean he looked so real, you could actually see the lines in his blue fur, as if you could actually feel the fur if you touched the screen. Okay, there's some stuff to unpack in this paragraph right here. The image showed a hyper-realistic of Sonic. A hyper-realistic what? Was it a picture? A video? A music file? It could be anything. His face. Oh god. He had the most horrifying smile I had ever seen. And that's saying something considering I saw that image at the start of the game. You saw the image at the start of the game? Wait, what? You mean the image that played at the end of the game? You saw the same image at the beginning of the game? What did you see, the title screen? His eyes are wide and black and once again crying blood, which also looked hyper-realistic. And there were 2 small glowing red dots in those black eyes staring right at me, as if staring into my mind. His grin was wide and demonic, and literally stretched to the sides of his face like a Cheshire cat, except Sonic had fangs. Very sharp fangs. Much like the werewolf's teeth, except more vicious looking, somewhat yellowish, and from the look of it, he had stains of blood and small bits of flesh on his lips and fangs as if he ate some animal. I stared at that gruesome image for a good 30 seconds, never taking my eyes off it. I felt as if he was actually looking at me, smiling at me. That face. It took 10 seconds for it to etch itself into my brain for good. Then the screen flickered with red static again 3 times, and on the 3rd time I heard the Kefka laugh, except this time it sounded distorted, demonic even. It went back to the image again, except this time there was the text again, though it was messed up. But it was pretty much one of the most horrifying things I've looked at since I've had this game. I am God. It was when I read that message while looking at Sonic when it hit me. I realized right there and then, this Sonic was a monster. A pure, evil, sadistic, all-powerful, nightmarish, demented monster. And all of his victims, including Tails, Knuckles, Robotnik, and possibly Kyle, are just his little toys. and the game is the very gateway to his chaotic, nightmarish world, and the very hell his victims are trapped in. Suddenly, in an actual split second, I screamed as Sonic lunged at the screen, screaming loudly with his mouth wide open to an unnatural length, revealing nothing but a literally spiraling abyss of pure darkness, before the red static came again, this time much louder and distorted, so loud that it hurt my ears. I yelled and grabbed my ears as the red static screeched for a good 7 seconds. Then it stopped and showed nothing but black screen. But a black screen. A black screen. You know, a black screen, not black screen. I love my friend John Black Screen. As I sat there staring at the black screen. Okay, here you do it correctly. One last text came up. Ready for round 2, Tom? That Kefka laugh, now sounding more clear as if Sonic was right behind me, played again 3 times as I looked at that text in shock and confusion. Then I got booted back to the main menu, and this time, the third save file had a TV image of Robotnik in the same tormented state as Tails and Knuckles. Robotnik's skin turned a dull gray, his mustache drooped and had blackened, his glasses broke, and blood is coming from them, and Wait, blood is coming from the glasses, how does that work? Glasses can bleed? I didn't know. And he had a mere dead-like expression on his face. I looked at Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik, and I cried a bit. I pitied them for the agony they're going through, the agony that I put them through, by the way, because I chose to play this game. They were forever trapped within the game, forever tormented by that horrid hedgehog, and always will be. Again, I caused this. I played the game despite them telling me not to. Again, I did this. I played the game despite Tails, Knuckles, Robotnik, and Kyle told me not to. Then the computer shut itself off. I couldn't turn it back on no matter what I did. I sat there for maybe 25 seconds, horrified by what had just happened. Sonic is the very embodiment of evil. He tortures people who play his game in more ways than one, and then when he gets bored, he drags you into the game. Literally drags you to hell, where he can play with you always, as his toy. I can't get the game out of my computer. I think it's stuck in there, but at least I managed to turn it back on now. After I sat there for 25 seconds, I heard a voice right behind me, like a whisper. Try to keep this interesting for me, Tom. I turned around to see where the voice came from, and what I saw made me scream. Sitting on my bed, staring right at me, was a Sonic plushie, smiling with bloodstains under its eyes. That's it. That's how it ends. It ends with a plushie. It ends with the plushie with bloodstains under its eye. What does the plushie do? Did the plushie suck you? Did the plushie suck you into its mouth or whatever? Did it steal your soul? Did it pull across worlds and? That was the story. That was Sonic.exe, the original story, the one that started it all. And that was mildly entertaining. Like, don't get me wrong, the story is no beating around the bush here. It sucks. It's terrible. It is not good. It is full of grammar and punctuation errors, tons of run-on sentences, a lot of unnecessary details, like how much time it takes for everything, and just Tom is a terrible protagonist, bro. Tom is so stupid. Like, despite multiple warnings of not to play the game, despite Kyle telling you not to play the game, despite Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik telling you not to play the game within the game and your dreams, you still choose to go through with it. And look, you got your soul stolen. Congratulations. You did it. You did it, Tom. You did it. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. I was clapping that entire time. I don't know if the clapping picked up on the mic, but I was clapping. And for all of your troubles, you get... The ending isn't even... The ending is terrible. It's probably the worst ending to any piece of fiction, like, period. Like, on my bed, staring right at me, was a Sonic plushie, and it was black, and it was bleeding with blood stains under its eyes. It was bleeding with black! The plushie was black. And yes, this story, well, it was... Sonic.exe was seen as a joke for a reason, because this story is terrible. And honestly, I'm really glad that nowadays, Sonic.exe as a concept has outgrown not only the original story, but its original creator in the time that it has been around. Like what we have now is so much better than what we had before. And yeah, it'll never escape that reputation. Sonic.exe and creepypasta in general will be always seen as cringe to people. And for honestly valid reasons. These stories were not great. These stories were not very good. Trust me, there were some diamonds in the rough, but Sonic.exe, as it originally was definitely part of the rough. But in the 14 years that this creepypasta has existed for, it has managed to outgrow its original incarnation and creator. It's the very, very problematic creator that created them in the first place. Sonic.exe is in the concept of like EXE stuff in general, is in a much better place now. And there are some really cool things that have come out of it, that have come out of the EXE community. As weird of a concept of an EXE community even is, one exists. And there have been some cool stuff in it. There's some pretty cool fan games based on it as well. And even though EXE stuff still has its haters, it's not all bad. Trust me, it's not all bad. As someone who dabbles into this stuff, I don't really tell anyone that I'm into this, because it's cringe. Like, it's cringe to many people, but I don't know. I have a soft spot for EXE stuff. That's enough yapping from me. Of course, as always, I hope you enjoyed. It's a little bit different than the past few videos. They're not my usual rambles, even though I definitely have been rambling. Hi, hello, Future J. Romy here. Fun fact, that was recorded 2 months ago. This was supposed to be a Halloween video, but, life got in the way. And I was like, oh, I'm still gonna do it. I didn't want to not make this video because I already put so much work into it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna freaking make it anyway. And so here we are. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Happy late Halloween, as it's now 5 days before Christmas, as the as the time of recording this. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed my yapping. Have yourself a good day and stay lovely. I still got some videos I want to make. Like I mentioned this in the recording of the recording 2 months ago. 2 months ago, but I wanted to make a ramble on Pac-Man World 2 Repack, and I still haven't beaten the game yet, so I'm slowly working towards it, and you will see that video hopefully in the next month if I lock in. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one. Stay lovely, everybody.